Well, hey guys, welcome back to Total Traction Trading. I really wanted to share this one with you. You have probably seen my 15-minute open candle strategy that I shared with you all, and you were so kind to comment on that. Many of us as day traders, and many of you probably trade exclusively using the 5-minute candle. So I wanted to share this with you. In a little bit, I'm going to get to my trade of the day, but I wanted to start out by sharing this strategy with you on the NASDAQ. Now, there are three things I always have on this particular strategy, again using the 5-minute candle. I have trend lines, I have the 8-period exponential moving average, the EMA, and then of course I always have the RSI. So I'm working all three of those kind of in tangent to develop this strategy, and so I'm able to share this with you. Now, on the NASDAQ, right here, this candle here, that was the 8:30 a.m. open, or 9:30 New York time, 8:30 my time. And so we had a strong move up, of course, right at the open today. Now you can see the RSI was well above 70 at that point, so a lot of strength going into this move. We did start up above the EMA. We came down and dipped just a little bit below it, and then we continued up. Now we had a little hesitation here, but we were still up above that EMA, and then we touched the trend line. Okay, so this is where I started making my trend line up. Right after it touched the second time, and then we had a third indication. But this is my entry point right here, where it was above the EMA. The RSI was still moving up, and so we would get into that long position right here. And we would keep that up. We had our trend line here. We had another touch. We had a little hesitation here, and we had another touch. Okay, then it came up. Now I'm seeing that the RSI was becoming weak, so I'm out. Actually, I was out right about in here. I didn't carry it to the high of the day, but that's okay. We were out, and then, like I said, the RSI is weaker, and we came down, and then we dipped below the EMA. See right here, and the RSI is below 70. It was still weak. And we came back up above the EMA, but it was still, the RSI didn't get back up to 70. So I certainly didn't get back in just because, again, that's not just because it's above the EMA. There are all three of those things we talked about that we're going to consider: our trend line, our EMA, and our RSI. Now here we had some weakness. We had a red candle. Look at right away, we have 3 touches on that. I drew my trend line coming back down. Okay, we continued down. So you could certainly go short right here. When it touched that, it couldn't even close above that EMA. The RSI was definitely in a weaker mode. You can see that here. So this is your short opportunity. And you would keep that moving down. We were still underneath that EMA. Now we had some change in the direction of the RSI. And you look left here. Okay, so we see that there's some, there were buying pressure here. It dipped below that first opening candle, but it couldn't close below it. Like, remember on our 15-minute candle strategy, we want to watch if it closes below or closes above. And then it came up, still below the EMA. And we finally then crossed over that trend line, and we continued up. We closed above the EMA. Okay, so now this is right around 11 o'clock in the morning. And now we have just some, come chop and slop, so to speak, on the rest of the day. I'm out. I'm done with the trade on the NASDAQ. But you can see how you can continue to draw your trend lines depending on the movement within those 5-minute candles. But now let me show you this. This is how you can use this on any of the markets that you trade. I often trade the currencies, primarily the sterling or the British pound, as well as the Australian dollar. And this over here, that's the Australian dollar on the 5-minute. Now I'm usually at my desk around 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, kind of getting ready for my day. And right away I started drawing this trend line because they say, wow, that's quite a move. It's still below the EMA, so I drew this trend line coming down. And this is right about, what was that, at the open as well. It dipped below. You can see that, but the RSI, look at that, the strength of the RSI coming up here. So this is where I got in right here, because we had this little hesitation here, and then it went above it, and it was still above the EMA, went over the trend line. The RSI was high, and that unexpectedly. That was quite a move up. I don't know what happened in the news or what have you, but this was definitely an awesome trade using this strategy on the Australian dollar. Now, when if you missed the first 15 minutes or so, now look at what it did. It turned around. Then we had some weakness in our RSI, so you can put another trend line coming back down in this direction. And we were kind of hovered around that EMA, right? So I made, like I said, that was my trade of the day, and then I was out. But I wanted to show you how you can then continue to draw your trend lines and use those. But with the EMA, it was just kind of hovering above and below it. There was nothing else really giving me a strong indication or strong probability that it was going to keep in one direction or the other and really have a good, profitable move. So I'm done. I stayed away from that. Now over on this side, we have, this is our oil. And this is on the 5-minute candle, of course. Now there's a couple of trend lines I have here that I put on my chart right away this morning, and you can see how that you can have them both coming up and coming down, and all of the activity. Now the oil here, we had the trend line at the high, and I usually do like kind of the swing high or the swing lows. So that was a swing high, and we came down here, and it broke above that trend line right here. And that's where I would get in. It broke above the trend line. The RSI was strong. And so we came up. Look at that move up to the upside. It was up above the EMA. It was here too, but I was still watching this trend line. So that's kind of your prerogative as to how you're going to trade that as far as your trend lines. But I was watching this one as well. So that's why I put both of those on there, because we had kind of that wedge pattern going. So we had the touches down below as well as the touches above. And like I said, this is the area that I would go long in if we hit above this trend line and above the EMA. So we're going up and we're going long. Now it came back down. You can see how it hit that trend line once again, and then it moved back up. Now this again, I would stay out of that just because it just kept going up, just up and about that EMA, and it never gave me any real good indication one way or the other. I could draw another trend line. We could draw another trend line coming down here to here, couldn't we? See how this works? You can just keep following it along throughout your trading day and see where those touches are. See where it goes over the EMA. So this is a great strategy, like I said, if you trade exclusively in the 5-minute candle, as many of us day trade scalpers do. So I certainly hope you find this beneficial and can use it. Test it out, depending on the markets that you do trade. I trade a lot of the S&P and the Dow. Sometimes this works for you, and sometimes it doesn't, just like any of your other strategies. So work with it, back test it, and give it a try. I think you will find it very helpful, another thing to put in your toolkit. So remember, trade with traction, not distraction. I'd appreciate your comments on this or any questions you might have. Subscribe. Totally appreciate it. Thank you so much. Take good care.